that the two perspectives meeting is really telling, I think, for where we're at in the space. So with that being said, I want to dive right into it, really about the economics, right? Because traditional card games usually factor things like mint condition, sealed packages, boxes, what the series prints are, the rarity, art flavor, and power level of different cards are usually the attributes that collectors really care about for physical cards. So do you guys see many similarities here and between the blockchain space for collectible cards?
Yeah, there's different things that you can do to add nuance to it, but I definitely see similarities where you have you certainly have the rarity aspects, and we take rarity seriously with ours, because we've got our own rarity tracker for our PFP collection, and we built that because we wanted it to be not only dynamic, but we wanted it to be fairly representative of the collections that we have. And we know that we're going to be doing some complexity as we go forward. One of the things that I think is actually an interesting part of gameplay, as it relates to the card game being digitized and in NFT, is the rarity could change over time too. And so it could change through burning mechanisms. It could change through gameplay. So I think that it adds a whole new game theory to the card game. So that's what I'm looking forward to exploring.
Yeah, and one of the other things that digital games can do on the blockchain that physical games can't is basically provide other utility beyond just playing the game, especially for older cards and things like that maybe aren't played as much. I mean, like you mentioned Magic the Gathering as an example earlier. I know with those you have a lot of value in like your original cards, and then you've got some value in the newer cards that are in rotation, but then you've got a lot of those older ones that are just kind of worthless and aren't used or anything like that. Like, for example, Splinterland, that's where Splinterland is adding land, where you can have cards that go play the game, or you can go assign cards, kind of like staking them. You can assign them to go work the land, and they'll have bonuses for older cards and that type of thing, so that some of those older cards can actually retain their value and have other use cases.
I love that you bring up the different use cases for NFT trading cards. And just really, there's a lot of potential there. I love what you're doing with the lands and having workers being able to till to the lands, because as you guys have all mentioned, Magic the Gathering has so many devout collectors, and I am one of those. I think I have more liquidity in my Magic the Gathering cards collections than I do in my house. Um, so I totally see where you're coming from. And it is going to be really interesting to see the dynamic switch from traditional TCG players to blockchain TCG players, because of the utilities. And I love what you mentioned about being able to get them to do other things, because you're right, staking immediately comes to mind. You can craft multiple of those more useless cards, or even like you can make that option for people to do right there, and then in like 2 months down the line you can release a new set of cards that would make that card that a lot of people had already burnt all of a sudden valuable, so it rewards people who didn't burn it. There's a lot that can be played around with here, and I really like the possibilities that TCGs have with blockchain ownership. So with that, really, I wanted to ask Splinterlands this just to kind of see and get the general consensus on what collectors and players actually tend to value the most when it comes to the Splinterland cards themselves.
Well, it can vary from person to person, because you have, I mean, you've got people that like to collect the original cards. You've got people who are more focused on playing the game, so they're trying to get the cards that perform the best. You have, I mean, there's people who are, so you have to have so much power to reach certain levels. So some people will collect cards with the most power, whether it's to be able to reach different leagues, or to rent out to other people to reach leagues, or in anticipation for land. Some people will be collecting the cards that they think are going to be most valuable on land, kind of trying to predict that. So depending on the type of player you have all sorts of different approaches to the game and what people like to value the most.
I think that's really true, I guess, across traditional players as well. I remember that I think Arts mentioned the real life fourth wall effects that the actual card game can have, and I thought it was interesting because I know that mutable attributes can let you do something like pick up on the time of day, as far as NFTs go, and change the dynamic of the NFT at night. I know Nick T, one of the community developers, has created different NFTs that change through the time of day too. So it's really cool to see that you can even break those fourth wall components of cards even through NFTs themselves as well. Has that been something that you guys have been playing with, like mutable attributes for your digital collection when you go that way?
So yeah, no, I mean that's I'll ask Arts to speak more to it from his perspective, but yeah, we want to be innovative and challenge the way we look at NFTs. You look at some NFTs where the rarity is locked in, and if you ever change the rarity, it would be, it turn the whole world upside down for that collection, and it's all locked in. We're already being dynamic with the way we look at it. We've got burn mechanisms for our teen bulls, and so rare and people are minting new teen bulls and they're burning teen bulls, and so the rarity is really dynamic. And we expect to continue to explore how to keep our collection dynamic. But I'll ask Arts to speak directly to the card game.
Okay, so as far as like rarity changing in the card game, that's not something that I've really like talked about or thought about. It's like as far as the fourth wall effects go, it'd be more based around gameplay and how your gameplay will change as certain things like change around your surroundings. More importantly, like traits, for example, those are going to be like the biggest thing that would change how the game is played. Because say like you're representing that trait like in your real life, you're going to like get an increase on how your game is played because of that. So that's kind of like how it's going to be played out. Like it's mostly just based off of the gameplay more than the rarity, but that is something that can be discussed.
Yes, especially if you guys come to Wax, I know that we'll have a whole bunch of community people who will be like, "Oh my gosh, you could do this, or you could do this," as soon as it goes live. So don't worry.
And that's the fun part about Web3, right? Is that you have that access to the community, and yeah, of course, as a founder, there's a lot of pressure with managing a business. I call it the town square of Discord, the town square of Twitter. But it's also liberating to know that you're not the only one that's got to come up with the ideas. That there could be plenty of ideas in the community, and just being open and humble and listening and gathering feedback, I think is an important thing to make it the best that it could be.
Absolutely. I love that you're bringing up the values of the community and how they're really affecting like different decisions that you have to make internally. So, have there been any community concerns that you've had to address and maybe change plans with?
Yeah, so we had thankfully, we like I said, we challenged ourselves on the gamification side and put some complexity out there. Before we even minted, there was a hole in our gamification that we changed, and we changed some of the game dynamics before we even minted. And then there were pieces that we heard back from the community that they wanted to see some more sophistication on, and that's where we've released or in the middle of announcing our God Bowl utility this week. So there's 3 new utilities that we're announcing. We announced one last night, and we're going to be announcing 2 more this week. And so that was definitely, we heard from the community loud and clear that the God Bowls were really cool art, but they wanted to see them do more. And so we always knew we wanted to do something, but the community pushed us to do it probably earlier than we might have done just according to our schedule. So we rallied the troops, and we got it done.
I think that's such a progressive, forward-thinking way to run really a community-focused and driven business, and that's ultimately what it feels like that really is. And something that Splinterlands has done, which I think is really interesting too, is that they created a metaverse to really garner to their community. And I was wondering, especially because of what Bulldog had said earlier about having so much, it's like so many people playing, and it resulted in the bear market creating some scalability issues, and that they were able to come up with different solutions. So Bulldog, I was really curious to know, were the lands coming out of the community need for a solution for the scalability?
Not necessarily. Lands are actually something that was promised quite a while, even before the bear market started, and has kind of it's kind of been a common complaint from the community, actually, because the thought was that land was going to be here a while ago, but running into some of these other issues, they just took higher priority. So land kind of got pushed back a little bit. So hopefully it doesn't continue to get pushed back, and all these issues can be solved, and we can get it out soon. But no, land was something that's been in the works for quite a while.
That's really exciting. I love the description of being able to have people till the land to be able to use their cards that don't have as much of a need in the game itself. That stuck with me a lot because I have a lot of alpha and beta cards from opening up sealed boxes from Magic the Gathering that, you know, the good stuff is good, but then there's also a lot of cards that are just never gonna see the light of play. So it's that really stuck with me. And it's really interesting too because you guys have the metaverse that people can play inside of, and you actually host digicon, and I would love for you all to maybe talk about digicon a little bit, and I would really love if the Bulls and Apes would be able to make digicon, just because it's such a immersive experience where you get to meet a whole lot of different wax collections and see other games that have been built on wax and see really what the community's focus and drive and passion said. So would you like to talk about that, Bulldog?
Well, I'm not honestly the expert on Digicon. I did speak there during the last event and have attended a few, but as far as everything else goes, I'm not sure I'm educated enough to really speak on it. So I can definitely forward the information on to the team that runs that, but I'm probably the wrong person for that question.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot. But one of the things I really liked was the streamability inside of Digicon, and you see a lot of people playing the Splinterland games live on stream, and it's a really neat use case of having a metaverse tied to something like a TCG. And then
Yeah,
I really,
yeah.
sorry, you go ahead.
Well, I mean, I didn't have too much to add to it, but yeah, no, it's definitely cool being able to see these virtual events and those types of things, and just being able to go see all the, not only Splinterlands and the streaming community there, but even some of the other games. And I came across several new projects at Digicon, actually. I mean, since I still have my YouTube channel, I'm always kind of looking at other games and other projects that I can play on the channel, and have made several connections there.
It's definitely such a great community tool, especially even for creating partnerships with other collections that have just done so much. And I'm looking forward to see how more communities start entering the Digicon space to really see what's going on. But leaving Digicon behind and going back to the future of card games, I really want to talk about what you guys are thinking whenever you're putting out the physical collection before doing the actual NFT collection. Just because you have an NFT based community, do you think that it would attract more users into the NFT space by having a traditional card game? And this one's really catered to the Bulls and Apes.
I do, and that's where we wanted it to. I mean, number one, we wanted to show that we were more than a PFP collection, and and that's why we have the lore. That's why we're doing what we're doing with our community and the inner circle and the deal flow, and we've got educational content coming out. So we wanted to do that, and because we had the lore and we were focused on a gamification, the physical card game made sense to us. And as you can see, our roadmap is pretty filled with NFT related items this year. And so we wanted to do something. It's going to be limited edition originally, initially at least, and so it'll be more of something that's accessible to the community and a reward to the community, something that's fun for the community. But we want it to go further distribution as we go into next year, and we do think that that's going to attract people that maybe are interested in the cards, But then they say, okay, oh wow, there's an NFT related to this. Let's go check out what it is to be an NFT. And by the way, we've got the courses. We got an NFT 101 course. We got an NFT security course, and that can help people onboard.
So I'm curious, what do you guys really do to help bring in a new player base, or plan to build, or sorry, what do you guys plan to build to bring in a new player base into the blockchain gaming space? I know that Splinterlands probably has done a lot of community events, but I'm curious, are you going to be putting like redemption codes inside of the boxes for the TCG itself?
Yeah, so we haven't fully fleshed that out yet. So I don't want to let out any surprises. But we do have ideas kicking around on how we leverage the physical card game and make sure that there's a ramp into the NFT world. Let's put it, but not ready to announce that yet. But yes, absolutely, that's been part of the discussion.
Well, I'm very excited to hear when that comes out. So, Bulldog, what kind of events have you guys ran? I know that you are constantly trying to onboard new users.
Yeah, that's always a challenge, is trying to onboard new users. And the kind of the hardest thing is the stigma just associated with NFTs. Even approaching it, other companies are trying to do a lot of marketing things. There's so many people that just shut down as soon as you mention blockchain or NFT or anything like that. So Splinterlands has tried to make it as easy for somebody who's never been in blockchain to get in. And that was me when I first started. I didn't know anything about NFTs. I didn't have a wallet, couldn't even tell you what a wallet was. And it was nice because you could just go in and use PayPal and buy things, and didn't even have to worry about the blockchain side of it until you were a little bit deeper into the game. The other challenge has kind of been with the economy, as far as, a lot of times if you go download just a normal Web 2 game or something like that, they just flood you with rewards at the start, right? And you spend the first few days just having rewards thrown at you, and you can't really do that in a blockchain atmosphere where everything has resellable value, where people would just create unlimited accounts to flip all of that. So there's definitely been some challenges there, but that's a big part of what I do as community manager, is trying to work with new players and new guilds. Working with guilds has been a big thing to try and help onboard new players.
So is there any kind of advice that you would give for somebody who is making a trading card game on the platform, or is really an indie creator, before they put their TCG onto the blockchain?
Well, I mean, it can be tough depending on what's set up, because even with trading card games and blockchain, there's still so many different ways to do it based on whether you want it to be more PvP focused, more PvE focused, if you want it to be actually play to earn, or if it's just more a game that has, it's not necessarily play to earn, but has NFTs as the collectibles. So every approach is a little bit different, and it's something where each game is kind of its own trailblazer a little bit. There's not a set format that everybody can just go follow and copy from other games, because I mean, even Splinterlands, we've been around here for several years, but we're still kind of just starting to get things figured out and still learning from a lot of things. So I don't think any game has it perfect just yet. So that's all still to come.
I was actually going to bring that up, is that as we move forward in the blockchain space, you're really going to start seeing traditional games, I think, in my opinion, enter the space. I think they're going to want to capitalize on the blockchain, because really that's going to be the future of technology. And having that digital ownership, where everything is always mint condition, I think is going to be really important. And it's going to be really interesting to me as we see people in the future try to come into the space and build off of basically what Splinterlands has done, what Bulls and Apes is going to do. and use those as examples for how to cater to the audience and how to really use the features that you have in the NFT space, like burning or like crafting NFTs into different NFTs, or even staking. So it's gonna be really exciting to see how it all plays out. And really, you guys are the pilots, for testing the waters for trading card games in the space, and it's fun to see play out. I know that there have been a lot of cool trading card games on Wax, and I wish that we were able to get more of them up, to talk about this, because it's really exciting just to see the kind of innovation that takes place in conversations like these and how they inspire each other. So I really also want to know why you guys chose to build on Wax. I know Splinterlands is multi-chain, and I know that the Bulls and Apes are contemplating putting their game on Wax. But I would like to know what drew you to our blockchain.
Street Fighter. So I'm 44. So Street Fighter was one of my games growing up, and when I saw that they were had an NFT, I was like, oh my god, I got to go get them, and so that got me looking into Wax.
Street Fighter is really cool. I think they were actually one of the first NFT projects to be able to test out the crafting feature, where you're able to combine two NFTs into one NFTs. And this is before the mutant apes came out on Ethereum. That's really cool. I love that answer. Do you know, Bulldogs, what drove Splinterland to be on Wax, or do you know maybe what kind of use cases that you guys like from Wax?
That I'm not necessarily sure. All those decisions were made before I got here, and I haven't heard or been a part of those conversations, so I don't necessarily know all the reasons. I know they've got the bridge to Wax to take advantage of the marketplace, and a lot of people have enjoyed being able to buy things like land or buy cards or whatever the case is on Wax. There's some things that there's not actually an in-game market for, land being one of those that you can buy on the Wax marketplace. So a lot of people have just found it a lot easier to use that, and it's a system they're familiar with.
Yeah, and Wax also offers the ability for everybody to create packs and pack opening mechanics, animations, be able to come up with a whole bunch of different NFTs and like pools for the NFTs for rarity within the Wax blockchain itself. So there are a lot of different creator tools available, and it's not just limited to like behind a barrier of entry or anything. There are a lot of marketplaces that offer these tools without any kind of paywall. And so it's really cool to see anybody is able to really dig into what it takes to create a TCG, and they can create one on Wax very easily. So it's exciting to see, especially because the Unity SDK, I think, is about to be public as well. So there's a lot of potential here for trading card games, and it's really fun. I would also love to take this time right now to invite the audience up to see if they had any questions or if they wanted to contribute to any of the topics that we've talked about today. And while we're accepting any requests from the audience, are there any questions you guys might have for each other between Splinterlands and the Bulls and Apes project? Because it really is neat to see how you all have approached launching TCGs from two very different angles.
Yeah, I think I'd ask Bulldog. I mean, what was one of the biggest obstacles to adoption? You know, when you put the game out there in NFTs, were there unique obstacles that you had to that had to be thought through that affected gameplay or affected usability? I'm just curious to see what that journey was like.
Yeah, as for like if you're talking about the very beginning of the game, again, that was all before that happened years before I got here. So I don't know too much about it, but I feel like one of the biggest obstacles right now is kind of what I mentioned earlier about how new players join the game, and it's a game where there's not a great like, it doesn't ease you into the game or anything like that. So if you just join and you have just the starter cards, you go up against other players that might have bought cards or maybe have more experience playing or whatever the case is, and it can be very rough for a new player. jumping in as they just play their first games and sometimes just get destroyed. So it can be a tough learning curve, and trying to help new players get past that initial barrier to learning the game has probably been the biggest obstacle that I've faced as community manager right now.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful answer. Thanks, Bulldog. All right, we have a couple guests who've come up. Let's first start with Facings. I think is that Francis from Facings? And then we'll go to Doge. Go ahead, Francis.
Yeah, hey everybody. Nice to see some familiar faces and some new ones. Yeah, just piggybacking off what Schnazzy said about how trading card games, there's going to be no wear and tear, and the ownership is forever. And now this is kind of the thing that can be passed down from one generation to the next without having to worry to keep it in certain pristine conditions, because it's going to be, on chain. And I think an excellent example, excellent use case of that is the Garbage Pail Kids. I know for our CTO, Kier Kleineck, huge GPK fan, like huge. You see, like we all remote work either way. We get cameras into each other's offices, and his walls are just layered with cards and memorabilia of all GPK. And then the moment it hit wax, he was like all in. He was like, "Hell's yeah!" Yeah. And then also like Dark Pin. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's surreal, dude. He could open his own GPK museum. I swear to God, with the amount of shit that he has, it's unreal. Oh, pardon my language. As far as our stuff, like Dark Pinup, for sure. We offered actual physical cards that were designed and printed for the legacy members who were with us in Act 1, and those are getting shipped out. I wish Lars coming to Zeuspat was still on here. He probably had to dip out, but yeah, we really wanted to bring the virtual to the actual physical, so we kind of did it backwards. But yeah, we put a lot of time and effort into making sure that the virtual trading cards could match the actual physical trading cards. And I really think, to Schnazzy's point, it is a new avenue of engagement in the same way like the Web 2 offered us a new avenue of engagement of the hobbies and the stuff that we like to engage with. We can do it on a digital level, and it can be, a generational thing. It can be like a new avenue of community. It can be like all of these different things, and we have yet to really shape it and define it. That's what we're doing here right now, I think. So the original end product is like to be continued to be soon. But yeah, I just had to jump up and say that. And thanks, guys. It's been a great talk.
Thanks, Francis. We'll go to Doge Fella, and then we'll come to Quasiman after that. Doge, you're up.
Hey, friends. How you doing? Tommy, Schnazzy, lovely to see you.
Good to see
Everybody
you.
else. Hey, Wax Fam. I have played a handful of Splinterlands, but I'm really excited. I haven't heard of Bulls and Apes, and I'm excited to check it out. But contrary to what everybody else has been saying, have you guys considered using mutable attributes to introduce like a wear mechanic on your cards, where as you play them and play them? Sorry, so go ahead.
You're reading my mind. I had the same question. I know it's appropriate to ask, but like, thank you for coming up and asking this. So yeah, please.
Yeah, man, I got you. Like, maybe it's something like a 0.01 or 0.001% chances. As you play your cards, they have a chance of like gaining wear that acts as a mutable attribute, and at X points it like gets a little crinkle effect. So it looks like it's been well loved, and maybe, I mean, with Magic cards, I know that there's the like, you always want your cards to be pristine. You don't want your corners folded. Like, I've got a huge stack of Magic cards. My sister has probably 100,000 Magic cards, and they're all in sleeves. And I've got World of Warcraft cards, and they're all in sleeves. But it would be interesting to see if that on the blockchain had an opposite effect, where cards that have been used a lot like gain value because they've been used, they've been in circulation and played and played and played and played. I don't I don't know how that would actually play out in the like economy and marketplace, but just something that I was thinking about too. I love that.
Yeah,
Tommy, I love that you and I were on the same wavelength.
I think that's good. That's a cool thing. What I'm thinking in my head. No, and I haven't really talked through this with the team at all. But almost like if it's not being used, it yellows. It gets stale. It's
Oh,
you
Oh,
want it
that's
you want
rad.
it used.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. That's so cool.
Yeah,
See, and
that would
that's
be
why
awesome.
these conversations are really cool. That same idea could apply though to other games too. I know I saw Minak in here earlier who has Forge Arena, and that could be applicable to the actual like the weapons inside of his game because it's a first-person shooter. That's a really interesting way to use mutable attributes, and I haven't thought about it before because that really is just like one of the, in my opinion, one of the worst parts about like collectibles or in a video game where you have like your weapon degrading over time. It sucks because you're like, oh, this was my favorite one.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you, Doge, for coming up and asking that. I wouldn't have spoke up. Bulldog?
Oh, I don't think Splinterlands has ever looked at having things like wear or anything like that, but I know they've one of the things that it's never been a high enough priority to work on, but they've wanted to add things like stats where it actually keeps track. Each individual card has its own history and could track like what tournaments it won or how many battles it won or kills it got or things like that. So each card would be unique in that way as well. And I think that's something that would be cool if they ever got to it.
You're blowing my mind right now. That'd be so useful. It'd be so cool. I love this. Thank you. Thank you for expanding my horizons right now. And then let me hand the mic over to Quasiman, who has come up to speak, and then we'll go to Miggy.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for having me. And awesome spaces. I'm a huge Splinterlands fan, so always good to hear stuff about the Splinterlands developments and everything like that because there's so much going on. And I do have a question, but I just want to say, thanks to Matt from Splinterlands because he bought a couple of the first mints of my collection yesterday and kind of started the sale off. So, Splinterlands is they're the real ones, they're OG in NFTs and really believe in the vision. And it's awesome to, see the marketing reflect that. But I did have a question. I was curious if you could share any of the updates with us about the lands, about the actual land tracks, and when we can expect some updates on those kind of things.
I don't necessarily have anything new that I can share. I know the first thing they want to get done is the non-card market so that things like land can be sold directly within the game or some of like the totems that would go on land can be sold directly in the game. That's supposed to be soon. They're hoping to have phase 1 of land done in the next couple months where you can actually like reveal your tracks and see what rarity you got, the location on the map, that type of thing. I think last I heard that they were hoping to have that done by Splinterfest, which is mid-October. I'm not sure if I'm not sure how up to date that is, but I know at Splinterfest they're also planning on having a whole session on land and things like that. So I don't really think, as far as new details, I don't think we'll learn anything until Splinterfest. I think anything that they have, they're gonna wait and hold off until then and do a big teaser then.
Awesome. Thanks. That's sounds good. I love what you guys are doing with shifting the earning mechanics and really rewarding more active players and everything. I think it's really creative and better scaling as far as like long-term development and whatnot. So congrats.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's exciting. That feels like we're in a spot with the economy where we're kind of poised to be prepared to take off again. So fun times.
Thank you, Quasi. Thank you, Bulldog. Miggy Crypto. How you doing? All right, so you're reconnecting.
I think you got rugged.
I did. You got me
Oh
good.
no.
Or while we're waiting for Miggy to reconnect, is there anyone else who would like to come up and ask any questions to our guests from Bulls and Apes and Splinterlands collections? Just go ahead and hit the request to speak, and we'll pull you on up. Miggy, are you ready with us?
While Miggy's figuring it out, I was actually curious just because you were asked about announcements regarding land. Are there any announcements that you are allowed to talk about? And this goes for both the Bulls and Apes project and the and Splinterlands.
I do. So yeah, I mentioned we have the Godbowl utility this week. We announced the first utility, and I also mentioned that there's a burn mechanism with the teens, and that's why it's dynamic. Well, we learned last night that our God Bowls now over a 30-day period generate power, and when their power is at 100%, they're able to resurrect a teen. And so there's a resurrection process that releasing over the next month. And so it's pretty exciting that the God Bowls will be able to, because a lot of our teams are really cool, but everyone wants to get to the God Bowl, so they're burning some pretty cool teens. And so now there's this underworld where these teens are, and the God Bowl is going to have the power to resurrect them from the underworld.
Oh, that's really neat. Is that a mechanic that's going to be reflected inside of your game?
It's in the NFT collection, so it's just part of our on our website, just part of our collection.
I think that's really fun. I love the gamification aspects to the PFP collection itself, and I'm excited to see what kind of flavor you're going to use inside of the TCG whenever it comes out too.
Yeah, and it'll all be based on the lore, the storyline. So we're continuing to build out the storyline, and the card game will have a storyline aspect for sure.
Yo, can you guys?
I'm gonna try this again. Miggy. Oh, yes.
Okay, cool. I don't know what happened to my phone.
I can hear you now.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me. Big fan of Splinterlands. I've been doing good, man. I've just been staying busy. Getting in as deeply involved with the gaming space as I can. So I just wanted to ask, both of y'all, what challenges you guys might be facing as far as like trying to bring in new players, especially people who are not blockchain savvy, and like what do you guys do to try to like grow the community?
Yeah, so on the Bulls and Apes side, this is we want to be that project that helps to onboard, and to me, it's about having a welcoming community, and putting out educational content to help demystify the process. And we know there's obstacles. We all know, right? There's obstacles in blockchain. It's still early on in the tech. Having to purchase crypto and get a wallet and make connections, and there's little glitches along the way, and so making sure that we have a welcoming community is number one, and then number two, putting some educational content out to help people on board is the second one.
So with Splinterlands, I've talked about a little bit of the things, how it's kind of the play to earn economy is a little bit of a culture shock sometimes for new players who aren't used to it, and how there's certainly a negative stigma around NFTs and blockchain for a lot of your traditional gamers. But on the other side, it's also kind of been a challenge, even for people who are familiar with play to earn games, familiar with NFTs. It's kind of been a challenge sometimes to pitch a game that's been around for several years, because so many of these games you see that they're profitable at the very beginning, and they basically take on a pyramid structure. And if you don't get in it right away, then you end up losing money. So People see a game that's been around for 4 years, and they kind of instantly tune it out, and they don't want to get involved. So pitching both to people who are scared of NFTs and people who are scared of a game they're not getting in at the very beginning. It's all about pitching it as an actual game first, and not necessarily as much about an investment or play to earn or anything like that, but just coming in and playing a fun game and interacting with a fun community. So that's been a big part of it.
Awesome, thank you. No, I appreciate it. And I definitely agree. I think the content creation and really pushing, the actual gameplay, that hey, this is a game that you're going to enjoy playing, but there's also mechanics built in to make it better. I think that's definitely a really good route. So I appreciate, the work that you guys are doing, because it's a tough space to be in right now, especially as far as the gaming is concerned. And I think, what you guys are doing is great. And so, eventually when everybody else catches up, I think games will definitely lead this industry for a little while, as far as like really getting adoption and bringing people in. So appreciate y'all.
And Tommy, I do have to drop for another session, but
of course,
I want to thank you for having us on. This was a great. Absolutely. I love all the questions. Love the chat here. It's great space.
It was definitely our pleasure to have you on, Anthony, and thank you. We're about to wrap it up too. We're going to give the last question to Spike, and then we're going to wrap up the call. Spike, you got the mic.
Thanks, Tommy. Appreciate you, and thanks for hosting this space. Miggy actually stole my question out of my mouth, so I had a layer on top of it. I've had a chance to play Splinterlands. I made some snippets of it. I realized how easy it was to kind of jump in without having to go through all the crazy, blockchain elements. So my question is, like, what are some of the strategies you're using outside of, let's say, Twitter and other places to onboard users? Like, things I've heard of and seen that might get some traction that I haven't seen in the space quite yet is like maybe having someone going to colleges and talking about blockchain technology, showing off the game and putting it in front of people, or even just like, working with the community and empowering them to set up like regional or local tournaments where they can all get together, have fun, and share the passion for the game.
Yeah, and Splinterlands has done some of that. They've got a contract with a couple universities. I don't know off the top of my head fully what all goes on there, but I know they've got some partnerships there with some of the even some of the gaming teams with some of those. So there are those, and they definitely have had some local meetups with Splinterlands, especially like I know for a while there were some big ones in the Philippines and in other places. Splinterlands has even sponsored some of those and said like, hey, if you're having some of these local tournaments and things and getting people together, we'll buy pizza for the group or whatever the case is to kind of facilitate people getting those together. I did actually tried to host some here. I'm in Indiana here in the US. Tried to host some here and ran into some problems where people were turned off by being NFTs and didn't necessarily like that. So I didn't have success on my end, but I know there's definitely some of our players that have had a lot of success setting things like that up.
Well, I love that answer, and I respect you. I actually want to try to do some regional stuff too. I think it all starts just with like creating these like centric groups where it's just kind of like where people can kind of come, maybe bring a friend, maybe make it where like if your friend comes with you, you get a free beer or something. But I definitely want to mix it up with you, Bulldog. We definitely connected in the past and try to figure out strategies to build this space. I'm over here in Texas, and like I can't say I've ever met another Web3 gamer, and that's something we can all work on together. So that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the challenges with Splinterlands is that, I mean, it is something where you have to own the cards. It's not a free to play game where you can just jump in. So it's hard to just get a group of friends together, because if they don't own any cards or anything like that, they can't really play with you. And that's something that Splinterlands is trying to address. Just earlier this week, they announced what they're going to be having what they're calling open tournaments. I think that's going to get renamed, but right now it's called open tournaments, where in these tournaments everybody will have access to all of the cards. So it'll be completely skill based and not based on the collections that you own. So I'm hoping that even expands beyond tournaments eventually to to some other places just because it's a lot nicer when you can play and compete with other players, and it's not just whoever spent the most money on their cards is going to win. So I think that'll open some new doors for them.
Alrighty, folks, thank you. We are just over our time today. I want to say a special thank you to Anthony, Bulldog, and Arts. Arts coming up the last minute, and Sharon, Bulldog coming and confirming the last second as well to join and chat about Splinterlands. It's been really interesting to see the dynamic between both of these projects today, both their goals and the hype and excitement that they've built as these motivated teams are pushing forward. I'm excited, and I think it's going to be awesome to witness how both of your projects continue to blossom and expand into new territories. I want to thank the community today. Thank you for coming out and listening, learning a little bit more about these projects and how they are catering towards all of our trading card gaming lovers. We'll be scrolling through the Wax Wednesday hashtags later to see everyone's drops. As always, we hope that you have a lovely night, and we look forward to seeing everyone come out again next week. I will say I'm excited to be back. I missed you all while I was gone, and I'm looking forward to what the next weeks are bringing. Everybody have a great night, or morning, or day, or whatever you want to have.